unanimous. Call to order the June 4th, 2025 meeting of the Sandwich Conservation Commission.
Motion to make Jonathan Klein the temporary chair for tonight's
I just nodded. Yeah.
tonight's June 4th meeting.
Tonight's one meeting. A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. I would like to appoint Linda Romano as a voting member of the commission for tonight.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Vote for myself.
All right. I would like to bring to order the June 4th, 2025 meeting of the Sandwich Conservation Commission. My name is Jonathan Klein. Present tonight are
Aaron Charleston.
Jeremy Shea.
Brittany Swaller.
Tyler Boudreau.
Linda Romano.
Please note this meeting is being recorded live and streaming on Sandwich Community Television. The live broadcast can be viewed by visiting sandwichcommunitytv.org on Government Live Stream, or you can view later on Government On Demand. You can also view on local Comcast Channel 9. I would like to remind everyone of our meeting format. For all hearings, the applicant will be allowed adequate time to present their project to the Commission. Upon completion of presentation, the Commission will be allowed to question the applicant, ensue Commission discussion, and ask for staff comment input. Upon completion of Commission and staff's discussion, I will read and summarize for the record any public comment received by staff prior to the meeting. I will announce public comment to the audience where any interested parties are to raise their hands. I will ask you to come up front. Please speak clearly into the microphone above us, stating your name, address, and affiliation for the record. 3 minutes will be allowed. All speakers are allowed to address the Commission, not applicants or audience members. When your 3 minutes are up, I will ask you to take your seat. A reminder to all, public comment is not a Q&A forum. On completion of public comment, the chair will announce the closure of public comment. On my closure of public comment, the applicant will add additional information comment to the commissioners. The commissioners will deliberate along with staff. Finally, I want to remind everyone that this commission is comprised of your neighbors volunteering our valuable time to help protect our town's natural resources to the best of our abilities. Our job is to uphold the provisions set forth by the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, as well as the Town of Sandwich Wetland Bylaws, Chapter 7. We do appreciate your understanding. And with that, we'll open new filing, RDA file number SCC 2025D-06, Ron Cavallari, care of Sabita Inc., just filed a request for determination of applicability for a proposed addition on a single-family dwelling at 16 Liberty Street, Sandwich, Mass. 02563, located at map 73, lot 79.
Awesome. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Hope you're all enjoying your summer so far. My name's Corey Bracken, representing my client, Ron Cavallari of Sabita Inc. We are proposing for this RDA 2 small additions on existing single-family home off of Liberty Street. The property was built in 1850 and has been maintained since then. There is a southeast addition, which is going to be a kitchen on a post and concrete precast footing foundation. Off of the north side of the structure, there's going to be a small bump out for the new utility room. As far as all construction goes, everything is within the maintained property. No natural vegetation will be disturbed during the project. If you had a chance to get out to the site, the little stone wall is pretty much the extent of where the work is going to go. That's where the edge of the deck associated with the kitchen will extend to. This whole project will be deeper into the lot than the existing garage. As far as distance to the resource area, there's no resource areas on the property, but off the property we have a BVW, a flood zone, and that's it for the resource areas. We don't have any natural heritage, no estimated habitat, no priority habitat. We're not within an ACEC. I've provided the BVW forms to lock in the wetland delineation where it is through my own personal delineation. If anyone has any questions.
All right, we'll open it up to public comments and close public comment. Jenna?
Are there, so I was looking at plans and everything, are there gutters or downspouts on the addition? Just to help with any rooftop drainage?
There will be.
Okay.
They haven't been drawn into the plan yet. But
As long as there, some
There
sort of
will be.
adequate drainage on there. And then, how many piers are you gonna need to hold it up?
I had the pier plan. That is still going to be determined, but
Okay,
I believe it originally we were at around 6.
okay. I was just curious to know how much earthwork. I understand they're just the piers, but, okay, so around 6. And then, about how close, are you to the resource area? I know you're within the 50-foot, right?
Correct. There is 136 square feet within the 50-foot, and that is entirely.
Okay, okay. Alright, well, that satisfies most of my questions. Yeah, I can condition that to be no more than 6 piers, or, however we wanna, how many we wanna allow. I would think a -3 determination with special conditions would be appropriate, and then because you've submitted all the data sheets, we can certify that wetland line as well.
I can get you the.
I'm gonna recuse myself from the conversation because Ron met with me like early on in the project as a potential project that I'm not gonna take on. So I just think it's easier if I don't stay involved.
Sure.
Any questions, anything?
I'll start. So the area in the back of the property, there's an existing stone patio or a fire pit. I don't think that's an issue, but it's probably pre-existing, but it's not located on the plan.
Correct. That let me see if it's on the existing. Okay, it wasn't on the existing either. That was a previously approved fire pit area that the owner had gone through Dave DeConto a couple of years ago for. I don't think the surveyor picked it up because it was the crushed stone, but
I don't think it's an issue, but it's more so that there is disturbance in that 50-foot buffer and also in the 0 to 50. So I think some mitigation beyond that would be probably good, especially because we're getting really just a naturally vegetated buffer strip on the back of that. I don't think it'll affect it too much, especially being that it's an RDA. There is proposed work in a buffer zone. So I think just a general location of the fire pit area, and then some mitigation would be appropriate.
The only difficult part with that is that our fence basically goes to the property line, and historically, it's been about 100 years of this being maintained as a lawn area. The BVW is pretty distinct. If there is room on the outside of the fence, potentially we could talk about adding something, but there is a row of sweet pepper bush that was planted there for the fire pit project that happened 2 years ago. The plants aren't shown, but the fence is lined.
There's a photo showing a lot of bare area beyond it. So closest to the resource area on either side, beyond whether or not the lawn will grow in there. I think that can easily be removed, and we constantly have projects that are doing disturbance and request mitigation. Is there a difference?
If I may, the only work within the 50-foot buffer zone is the deck, and we are going to do native crushed stone underneath it. So it's actually going to make the area more permeable than what's presently on site. Because if you look at the house right now, there's where it's roughly approximately where that picnic table is. That area will become more permeable and allow less runoff than what is current. So I do think it is already an improvement over existing conditions.
Sure, but so the addition and the deck by definition are disturbance. so it's the square footage of the disturbance, I think should meet the mitigation because we want to see an improvement over site conditions. Although there's not much there, you're still working in a buffer zone and it's vegetated and it won't be anymore. So I think it's a fair ask for a one-to-one just on that area where it's closer to the resource area.
I mean, if we did a one-to-one to that, on that, that's asking us to get rid of the whole yard, including the fire pit area.
Do you have a calculation of the square footage of the proposed disturbance?
There's 136 square feet within the 50 foot.
And how much between the 50 to 100?
I would have to work that out. I don't have that number handily available. It would be approximately 300, I believe. It might be a little more than 300. It might be closer to 5.
I mean, I think it's reasonable to, what kind of mitigation would you think would be appropriate?
I think just any sort of, I don't think it has to be anything crazy. The one-to-one is just a recommendation.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's clearly some area where you say it's managed grass, but it's all dark brown. Maybe that's a new lawn, which isn't allowed in a buffer zone. So there shouldn't be any grass in there if there's photos here showing that. But I think you would end up meeting that. There's definitely, you can work with your client to say, hey, what's space that we need to have for our lawn if we can put some plantings in here that'll appease both sides, and I think it's a fair ask.
Like along the fence line there where it's
What's the diameter of that pit, that stone? Could we shrink it a little? Then you can get some.
I would prefer not because it has been previously approved by the commission.
Is that mulch though, the brown, or is it?
The brown, that's just, there hasn't anything grown in. I can definitely discuss with my client about doing some mitigation plantings towards the back of the fence. If we could condition, use a native grass mix along with some shrubs towards the back, if that would make the commission feel better about the project.
Well, if you're adding a hardscape, if you're adding structure in the buffer zone, I think you've got to give us something. So if they could have a conversation about it, it'd be helpful.
Correct. I agree with that in most cases. I think because of the age of this lot in historic Sandwich, it kind of makes things a little more difficult because traditionally this has been a lot that, it's non-conforming by all definitions, so it's kind of tough because there's not a lot to play with. But I can understand where you're coming from with wanting to add something towards the rear. They hadn't started to grow in yet, but there's a sweet pepper bush here, and I believe there's one more in the corner. I can see if we can buff that up a little bit, add maybe some arrowwood or something else in there as well. Maybe a couple more sweet pepper if that helps.
Conditions, or we want to continue?
I just need to know how many additional plantings or what verbiage you want to use in that condition. Well, if it's conditioned, you have to follow them. So, as long as you guys are okay with that, versus getting continued and revised plans and everything else.
Yeah, I think the coordination with staff on the mitigation, where it's clearly the area that's not lawn shouldn't be new lawn now, and you can work with Jenna just putting some natives in there, and it looks like based on the plan, there's not any shown, and it doesn't look like it. But like you're saying, there is some clutter in there, so obviously you can just add around
Sure.
it. And I think it's a net improvement.
Okay, yeah, we can definitely do that.
Yeah, so if you wanna talk to your client and see what and how many, and let me know, and then I can,
Yeah, we can agree on a number and because he's here, so I can talk to him after this, so
Yeah.
I can figure it out,
okay,
and I can let you know.
sounds good.
Awesome.
Motion to approve RDA file number SCC 2025D-06, Ron Cavalieri, care of Sabatier Inc., 16 Liberty Street, Sandwich, Mass. 02563, with standard and discussed provisions.
Second.
All in favor?
And to issue a -3 determination.
Great.
And Aaron.
Second.
Aye. All right, thanks.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. We'll move on to continued filings. Open up DEP file number SE 662050, Scott Farella, care of Green Seal Environmental LLC at 355 Phillips Road, Sandwich, Mass. Located at map 95, parcel 45. I do have item to read from that. Good morning, Alexandria. Thank you for your follow-up. We would like to request a continuance to the July 2nd, 2025 scheduled meeting, please. Much appreciated. Scott. Based on that, make a motion to continue DEP file number SE 662050, Scott Perillo, care of Green Seal Environmental LLC at 355 Phillips Road, Sandwich, Mass. to the July 2nd, 2025 scheduled meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Open up DEP file number SE 662043, Phyllis Arduino, care of Crawwell Engineering, filed a notice of intent for proposing a raising of single-family foundation by 6 feet at 3 Sandcastle Drive, Sandwich, Mass. 02532, located at map 96, parcel 2.
Yes, there was a last meeting about Bob Kroll Engineering. I apologize, I missed the meeting. My dog ate the anyway, I have, when we were last here, we had proposed to put 3 Sandcastle Drive up. We wanted to raise it up using blocks. And after discussing it with Phyllis, the owner, we decided we would try and put it up on piles. So that's what we're proposing.
Put it up on what, sorry?
On piles, because it's in a coastal dome. The architect that I worked with, he had some issues, and the drawings that I submitted have changed a little bit. They are on piles, but I wanted to scan this up so people can share the also the drawings. All right, so the site plan doesn't change much except this is the existing condition plan. So this is the building right here. It's approximately 17 feet wide by 22 feet deep. It presently has an existing deck in the front. And we're going to be putting piles on the 4 corners, midpoint, and the same in the middle. And for the deck, we're going to put 3 piles on the ends, and we'll do the same on this side also. we have, we're proposing to do, okay, so up above here is what exists now. And what we're proposing is to put it up on piles. So we're proposing the existing dwelling now, we're going to put it up on top. So this is going to be framed with 2x6s, and this will be put up on top. So let's see. This is the rear, looking at it from the rear. You can see the 3 piles, they're all on the end. And on the side, on the end, in the middle, on the corners. There will be a set of stairs interior, so you can get up from the first floor to the second floor, and then to exit the building, you're going to have a set of stairs on the first floor going down to the existing grade. This is just the floor plans, which really doesn't concern you, but you want to see it. This is what we have now. It's basically rearranging the kitchen, refrigerator and stuff is all there. Right now, to get down into the basement, there was a staircase, kind of what do you call it? The staircase that you have, it's
It's like spiral.
a spiral. It's
Half spiral.
yeah, it's spiraled out of control, but anyway, it's right there. Very hard to get in and out of. So, and in here they got a full bath, and so now this is going to be the top floor. They're going to be able to look out on the bay, and they're just going to have just a bathroom and a sink up top, and the stairs to get down to the second floor is right here. And this is the first floor. There's going to be a bedroom and full bath, stairs, and some closet stairs. And this is working with the architect, and again, so this is going to be again, the piles will be on there. They're all equidistant. There's the deck on the front. And it's a 6-foot deck here, and it's a 2-foot cantilever. So the pilings are here, and it won't interfere with the existing septic system in front. So this is what the crib plan. This is what the decking looks like. You have 2x10s for the flooring here, as well as for the deck. So I think the plan that we had given you before, we had numerous piles. It's nice and clean now. And we showed it to the, Kevin St. George isn't here yet, but he's going to be the general contractor. If we go forward, we're going to just price it out, make sure the price works and then we'll go forward. But I spoke to the pile driver, and I guess right now he's working on Phillips Road on the very end. Presently, and he said, I'll probably put in 500 piles along that road. And he said, you don't need to do any testing. He says, we'll either use 25 or 30-foot piles, and he goes down until he gets refusal. He says it's all sand out there. He knows what it is. But anyway, that's just hearing it from him. He's got a really nice machine. He's got a big Caterpillar, and he's got a thing that just sits on top and it just jumps it right down. I've worked in Hull, and I've done 6 or 7 systems out there. We pick up the house, move it, and then put the piles in. And we have the pile drivers going up and down. And this is pretty cool. This works really nice. And he puts them in exactly where you want them. In any case, we'll put, the surveyors will go out there and put where they have to go. And it'll be right where the existing house is now. But anyway, so that's what we're proposing to do, and we will be submitting plans to the building department probably on Tuesday, Wednesday the latest. And so if there's any changes or anything, but it shouldn't really. The piles, that's where they're going to go, and that's what's affecting what we're doing here with the coastal dome.
I'd like to open it up for public comments. And closing public comments. Open the Senate.
I think my only concern, and you had, I believe, spoke to Alex about the plan we received that had concrete footings on the bottom of the piles.
Yeah, there's
You're
no
not doing that?
concrete.
Okay,
no,
cool.
They're all gone, it's all piles,
Right.
and when he did it, my guy, he was in surgery, he had a knee replacement,
Yikes.
and he was in the hospital again yesterday, but he got this done to me.
Nice.
So he revised it to the way I like to see it. So, okay, you can go back to your doctor now.
Okay,
But no, he's good.
That's fine. I just wanted to
Yeah.
clarify that, and then we can condition that so you don't have to,
Okay.
change it on the plan. But I think raising the house really satisfies all of the coastal dune regulations. And that's really all I had concern about. Oh, and then I don't know if we received a copy of your pile plan. But if not, could I have one, please? Emailed or, however you want to do it.
Well,
Is it in here?
yeah, keep going. One more.
That's all I got.
2 words. I might have shortchanged.
Oh, that happens. Okay,
So we'll need 2 of those, if you could give us a second.
1, 2.
beautiful.
Let's make sure you have to
Double check here, yeah. Oh yeah, this one's missing too. I mean, that's not a huge deal.
Hold on.
Okay. Awesome. I just want to have that.
You said you have to.
Well, that says S.
You know what, when I gave the plans
That's
out,
fine.
I had the eight drawings in the site plans. If anybody wants one, you can have it.
Okay, all right, well, that
You
should
all
do.
set?
I think so. I hope so. Okay, that was really my concern, but I think this is the solution
And
that
here's
we
2
talked about.
full-size drawings.
Okay.
Thank you.
And again, you have to change some details for the building department,
Okay.
whatever, but whatever changes, we'll get you a copy.
Okay,
If
as
they're
long
out.
as they're, and I mean, if
the
they're
piles
minor
are going where they
changes,
are.
as long as the piles aren't moving,
Yep.
as long as you're not changing anything structurally, you're picking up the same house that's there and lifting it.
Yep.
I think we can be okay with that. Thank you. Oh, that's just their work. But, okay, yeah, I'm good.
All right.
Any
Yeah.
questions?
What's the material gonna be underneath the building?
Okay, that's a good point. Underneath, we have a cellar right now. There's a foundation.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get rid of that, and we'll tear out the 3 or 4 inch cellar slab. We'll pull that out and discard that. I guess.
You're gonna fill it in and bring it up to grade?
Yeah.
And then what's there? What's left that you will see?
Sand.
Sand?
Is the propane tank and generator getting lifted too, or is that somebody else's property? I couldn't tell.
That's on their property. I haven't thought about lifting the propane tank. What do they typically do?
They get lifted on like a 24-inch timber platform.
Yeah.
Typically, I think they go under the house.
They just put 'em- yeah.
Yeah, they go on like a little they have like a generator platform.
Yeah, okay.
There's building stuff in there
Okay.
too. Regulation stuff of what they
We have
want
to
for
meet
that.
flood elevation,
Yeah.
so that's building department, that's not us, but
But you will have to do it.
Yeah.
They'll have to get raised.
All right, well, I'll find out about that. So,
elevation 16.
that's the, yeah.
I just know there's a specific condition that we include that says like heating elements and this and that have to be so high and under whatnot. So that'll be conditioned to meet our regs. Oh, and just a small FYI, we do have a condition for skirting. If you wanted to enclose underneath, you can use lattice, or I forgot what the inches are, but it's, if you have a board this wide, you have to leave a space the same width as the underneath, and just so you know.
Very good.
I just have a minor question, is from the gravel drive,
Yeah.
the material used to access the stairs, it looks like right now you have that wood that goes right next to it so she can get back and forth. Is there proposed like a walkway? I'm sure it would make sense to have a
Yeah,
previous,
we could do a
Walkway.
wood walkway.
like even elevated, that would be even better.
Just a nice ask.
So elevated, yeah, because that's also conditioned, any new structures, 24 inches, 24 to 18, depending. So if you do a walkway, that's gonna be lifted too.
Any other comments, questions?
Motion to approve DEP file number SE 66-2043 Phyllis Ardino, care of Kroll Engineering, has filed at 3 Sandcastle Drive, Sandwich, Mass. 02532, with standard and discussed conditions.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Open up DEP file number SE 66-2052, Norbert Wong, care of BSC Group Inc. Just filed a notice of intent for proposed raise and replace of existing single-family dwelling at 12 Captain Hook Road, Sandwich, Mass. 02537, located map 64, parcel 26.
Good evening, members. For the record, my name is Kieran Healy. I'm a land surveyor with BSC Group. With me tonight is the landscape architect and the architect of the building itself. And we're here to talk about a revised plan. We were here a couple of months ago and we reviewed the project with you. And there were some concerns at that time, which I believe we've responded to. The number one concern was this area over here. We had a strip of vegetation along the side. We were asked to locate it so it was more bunched in this area right here. What we have also done is added a lot more vegetation and removed the lawn in this entire area back here, just leaving a walking trail through the back side. As a result, our vegetation, we have an increase of coverage of 146 square feet, and we're proposing plantings of 5,492 square feet. So basically a 35-to-1 response to the increase that we have on the project. The other concern was moving the house forward, and we had talked about moving it forward 4 feet at the meeting, and that just allows the trail to go around. There was concern about construction. Would we be able to do the construction without interfering with National Heritage? And by moving it at 4 feet forward, we're able to get access to the back of the building, which should not be an issue to construct the building. The other item that was concerned was the plant species that we had. We had a lot of beach grass and not a lot of other vegetation. We've got a complete plant palette right now, and as I mentioned, the landscape architect is here if there are any questions about the landscape that is proposed. And then the last item that was of concern was the driveway itself. We had proposed pervious pavers when we were here. We've now modified that to crushed stone, with the exception of the area just right in front of the garage bays right here, because there's a transition between the crushed stone into the garage. As this is going to be on pilings, but there's not going to be any poured concrete, so we need just that little bit of extra stability as we get into the garage. But all the way from here out to the street is all crushed stone, which I believe is what the commission really wanted us to do. And other than that, myself, the team, would answer any questions that you may have.
All right. Open it up to public comment and close public comments. Jenna?
So I was looking at the architectural plans, and it looks like the house is raised, but the garage looks like it's almost level with the ground. Is the garage also on pilings too?
The garage is on pilings too.
Okay.
And
Okay. Is this a floating slab in there? So I just wanted to clarify that.
and that's literally how it's done. A slab is put on top of the pilings, and then the garage is on top of that slab.
And I noted the habitable space on the barrier beach side of the property, I believe, was like a less than 4% increase. So that satisfies that policy. I can appreciate the amount of plantings, so that's great. And I think that, you know, addressed a lot of what we discussed at the last meeting, so that's really all I had a concern about was the garage, but that's been explained.
Yeah. I have a concern about the garage as well. How do our regulations say that any structure has to be 24 inches above ground to allow for sand to go, and then we have a slab and a garage that's at the same grade as the sand? Like, what would stop a building from being built in this exact same way?
As long as the building is, our regulations just say 24 inches above. I know flood zone, it's obviously got to be quite a bit higher.
But 24, how is the garage is not 24 inches above grade?
Is it not?
Because how could a garage function at 24 inches above grade?
If I could answer, the structure itself here is 24 inches above grade. The only thing that's not 24 inches above grade is the access into it. But all
You're
underneath
doing a
the building-
ramp, is that what you're saying?
In a way, a ramp, yes. But
A ramp.
to get up into it, but all underneath the building is exposed all the way through here. You'll be able to see from one side to the other side.
How long is the ramp? Or the,
Well, it's just purely the driveway to get up into it. You know, that's what it is. It starts down at the street
So
and it
it's-
drives
so-
up into this.
this
So
goes a hill.
there's no 24 inches of space between your garage and the ground, correct?
At this one point, yes, but as soon as you get into here, it is 24 inches all the way through the rest of it.
But at the front, there's not.
Correct. There's no way to drive. There's no way to elevate the garage and have a transition from.
That's right. I do think there might be a conflict in the regulations with the, your ability to have a garage in this area, because our regulations state that you have to be 24 inches above grade, and you are not 24 inches above grade for a good majority of this building, which you're calling garage, which is basically half of this building.
It would be this section right here would be the garage. So it's this section, and currently
But
there's
the other part too is coming all the way up to the bottom of that building. The little garage to the left or whatever it is. I don't know what you want to call it, the one closer to the, that one.
this drops down as it gets lower over here.
Mhm.
But this section we do need to get from the ground into it. The driveway still exists right now. The garage is here right now. The transitions into.
Mhm.
So at the back of the building, as I mentioned, it is completely open. But we do have that transition period where to get into the garage, we obviously can't have a step or a lip.
Yeah, and that to me means that your building is not 24 inches above grade.
I mean,
Is the
a
cobble
general
apron
question.
where the transition is?
Yes.
So I think what he's saying is each of the corner elevations meet the 24-inch requirement. If I understand, I'd have to see a section, but the transition would be, so we're allowing for a pervious driveway, and essentially the cobble apron would not be the building, that would be part of the
But
driveway.
no walls are allowed in a coastal dune, so there's no way to hold up grade
Yeah, 'cause that's-
outside and then have it drop down 24 inches underneath.
Yeah.
Like that, there's definitely a conflict here.
Yeah, because how much would be needed to get up to that point? Like it's a wall, right?
You can't have a wall. It's like
Yeah,
we
but
can't
that's
allow a
what-
wall in a dune.
If it was to be built up to get to grade, it would be a wall.
Right, so they're sloping up to the bottom of the building
Yeah.
and on inside the building sloping down
Yeah.
and letting that happen, and that's how they're getting into the garage, which
Essentially, there's an artificial hill that the
Yeah.
house is being built
graded up and
directly
down.
next to.
So that means that you can show us a section, if you want, showing us how your building is 24 inches above grade in the drive-in areas. Do you have a section that can show
We
that?
have a section of the driveway. So basically, the way it works is all of this is 24 inches. There is pilings along here that support the ground here coming up into it. But underneath the building itself is 24 inches.
Yeah, so I think, inherently what we need to see is you've got 24 inches that you have to have underneath your building, right? But you've got a car coming up here. What's happening right here? You've got pilings which are not retaining sand, they're just pilings. So how is that sand and ground being supported outside of your garage without a wall and still allowing your building to be 24 inches above grade? That's the section I think we need to see.
Along that section, there is a number of pilings. The pilings are closer together along the face
So
of this way.
how many pilings are you putting in under that garage?
Along the face.
We actually submitted a piling plan a while back, you should have one.
So the pilings are touching so that you don't have sand going in between?
There is a piling plan that was submitted.
Proposed conditions. Yeah, it's right here. Yeah, you want to get on top.
And if I could, before we designed this, we did have a conversation with the building inspector to be sure that we complied with the building code by us doing this. And he said as long as we did it in this manner, kept underneath the building empty
Yeah.
and open.
I don't think it's a building code issue. I think it's a conflict with the sandwich regulations for building in a coastal dune and not having to have all structures be existing grade and not allowing, there's no provisions for any walls, which you're trying not to have a wall because you're bringing grade up and then in the house, underneath the house, sloping it back down where it can. But the regulations are stating that your structure needs to be 24 inches above existing grade, which you would be out of compliance at the portions where you're bringing the car up into the garage. Unless you show me a section of how you're not, which I think I understand things. I know that you can't do it without a wall or without retaining.
Right, the pilings themselves are going to be retaining. But there's no question that we need to fill in the area in front of the garage to get up into the garage. That section outside the house in the front, we cannot have 24 inches there. We can have 24 inches directly behind it and underneath the whole garage, but the area that's outside the building doesn't have 24 inches.
The challenge, though, is that that prohibits the flow of sound, which is what we're trying to allow happen. That whole section, sand cannot flow, because it would undermine your whole ability to get into a garage. So you need to stop it. But the problem is we can't approve something that stops the flow of sand.
So are there pilings under the ramp portion itself that are just like kind of close together with each other? So the ramp's kind of floating with piles supporting it. It's not like a triangle under there.
They don't have a ramp. They just have dirt, sand going up to the garage.
Okay.
It's basically fill of some, whether it's stone
I
or
don't know
sand.
if you can make like this might sound dumb, but like a floating ramp. You know how you have your floating slab, you have a floating concrete ramp.
Like barns are where they have like a.
But obviously that could support a car. So
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like
I mean, that's the only way to get around the regulations that you're under.
If you're floating slab.
It's technically, you're not in compliance if your building is not 24 inches above grade.
But if you had a ramp made of pilings going up to the garage, then it's not a permanent.
I do appreciate the commission's willingness to even discuss that, but at the point where the bottom of the ramp touches the ground, then I'm not going to have 24 inches.
Right.
You're never gonna have.
So I'm never going to have 24 inches to.
Of the structure.
Of the structure.
I think that the regulations do not allow, would by their definition, not allow a drive-in garage.
Would this commission not be open to a variance on that, seeing as we're removing a house that's completely within the flood zone and elevating it up so much to make it compliant? I mean, it's a substantial improvement from what's there right now, because if there is a hurricane and storm surge, that building will go that's there right now, and this is a huge improvement over reducing the risk for that.
think the problem is it's in conflict with regulations that we would have to be voting against our own regulations and setting that precedent.
And the state act as well.
And the state
The
act?
state act doesn't have a 24-inch, but it says right in the state act, anything that is infringes on the lateral movement of sand. So it's completely prohibited. So you'd have to apply for a variance. I don't know how that works, but with the state, not just us.
And that's it, is it?
I wouldn't think this creates, a precedent in that by us lifting the house that's there and removing the house that's there, the substantial improvement on this property to reduce risk of a building being washed away would definitely outweigh the small portion of the building that would be limiting the flow of sand. Because we do have a structure that's there, it's not new construction. And just that counts for a lot when it comes to replacing a house within the dune and within the barrier beach.
But even if we were able to do something under our bylaw, we can't approve something that goes against the state act.
And I appreciate what you're saying, but I'm concerned about precedent.
Yeah, that's always a concern too.
And as I said,
I understand that you're making improvements on the house.
precedent is
This is a
critical.
good thing,
Yeah.
but precedents about the garage level, I don't know.
Precedent
I
is
feel
critical.
uncomfortable with it.
Yeah. Precedent is critical for new construction. But when you're doing a substantial improvement to what's there for the environment, commissions do have the ability to look at that regulation, and if they feel that it's an overwhelming good, they can allow something to go forward.
It's also, we know that it's not an overwhelming good. Like building a solid structure 30 years down the road, the dune in front is eroding away. It's going to hit that, and it's going to be affecting then the properties down the road in ways that we don't understand. And that's the point of pilings, is that 30 years down the road, when we are at a point where our dunes are gone, it's not going to be something that's dramatically affecting downstream. So to put a wall in there is not an improvement.
But if we left
It's still a barrier.
if we left the house where it is right
Yeah,
now,
and we're not telling anyone to take out their foundations. Like, that's not our goal here. But we're saying if you're going to do this work, you need to do it in a way that's making the ecosystem better, and that doesn't.
I really think that you could, I'm wondering if you would be willing to, take this back to your drawing boards. Figure out how you can get your primary structure 24 inches above grade to meet the regulations. And let's discuss the possibility of doing basically like a boardwalk or, like a ramp that would get you into the garage, would allow you to drive into the garage, but it would be kind of a wooden structure or something that would have, also air and sand underneath it, that would then just come to the ground in one point, the same as we allow for stoops to the main building to come in and out of a house. Like, I think you have to think of this as kind of like a vehicular stoop and get a little creative with it that way, because the regulations on all fronts are telling you that a traditional approach to this is really not meeting the mark. But I think there could be some creativity in how you can get there.
and my team are more than willing to go back to the drawing board. By no means don't think I'm arguing with the board when I'm putting things up. We are more than happy to go back to the drawing board. If the commission, would be accepting of a ramp, then, going forward, we would gladly do so, and find a way to do it. I just don't want to go back to the drawing board and if there's no chance of getting approval from this board to do that.
Yeah, of course, but our goal is to help you meet those regulations and to help you get to where you want to be and to find the balance between the regulations and what you want to propose. So along the way, are you going to propose something that maybe doesn't strike the balance and we'll have to rehash that conversation? That could be. We don't know what you're going to come up with. But what we are telling you is, we're not telling you no. We're telling you, I think there could be a way, if you wanted to try to explore it with us, that we could figure out something.
And I'd be glad to ask for a continuance to go back and see if we can literally go back to the drawing board and come up with a way to create a ramp of some sort for vehicles to get into the garage.
Sure. And in the sake of what he mentioned, so our original kind of idea was there will be a portion of the ramp that will not meet that 24 inches, but it will substantially allow the movement of sand. So maybe that, in terms of a waiver, that would be you be meeting the regulation. There's a minor detail that's much better than what's proposed now. So we would grant that, and we should probably deliberate that would be approved, so there's not engineering involved, and then them having to go back. Is that what you're?
I do not want to put the commission under the gun right now to answer those questions. I would like to, but I don't think it's appropriate for me to do so. But if anybody is openly opposed to this whole idea, please let us know.
I think that the intention that if there's a portion that doesn't meet that while allowing that 24, I think that we are amenable to that. With but Bernice also mentioning that doesn't mean it's a blanket yes, but I think yes.
And we'd be, as I mentioned, we'd be quite happy to go back to the drawing board and see if we can come up with a solution.
Yes, it would be seen as a stoop. It's very similar to a stoop, vehicular stoop, that you allow something to touch the ground at some points.
If we were to continue it to our next scheduled meeting on July 2nd, would that be something that would work?
My portion is easy, but the architect's portion might not be easy. Can you get to the next meeting? Yeah, we will.
Okay. Then I will make a motion to continue DEP file number SE662052, Norbert Wong, care of BSC Group Inc. at 12 Captain Hook Road, Sandwich, Mass. 2537 to the July 2nd, 2025 Conservation Commission meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Thank you. All right, so there are no extensions, no certificates of.
John, can you just 1 second to?
Amongst yourselves.
Oh, I beat you. Yeah, you did.
It's not a competition.
It is.
Okay.
Keeps it spicy.
Never. What?
Beautiful water.
I know, all right.
Good one.
So we will move to other business, starting with American Perimeter Trail, New England Mountain Bike Proposed Trail. Have a speaker.
Alright, John is right here. This is John's proposal, I'm just here to support him.
So before we begin, I would like to note that I have used the term American Perimeter Trail. That doesn't have any significance though, other than that the Cape Cod Pathways is part of it. So for this presentation, I'm going to be using Cape Cod Pathways as the term. So the proposed project will provide a roughly 1.3 mile extension of the previously approved Maple Swamp Discovery Hill connector. It will provide access to very scenic landscapes in Discovery Hill along a ridge line. Nubba and I have walked the proposed route before, and you have some nice views of the ocean the bay during the winter, and also the Telegraph Hill radio tower. We hope that this proposed trail will help provide better access for emergency usage, and it is also part of a loop through Discovery Hill and Maple Swamp, a 4.9 mile loop that will help get families into the sport of mountain biking, help them learn about it, and get them active in it. And it will also provide for families that have somewhat of a less active lifestyle, so it's a shorter loop for people that don't want to go the full 8 miles. Are we able to have the map on the big screen?
Yeah, do you have it open? And I can help you connect. Are you connected to the Wi-Fi? Yeah.
It's the first one in the list I sent you.
Modern technology.
Yes.
And John, which one were you looking for the picture?
The one that, okay, I'll bring it up and show you.
This one. Perfect. Okay. Let me scroll down. This one?
Yep.
Perfect. Okay.
So this is the map of the proposed trail that Namba and I have put together. It's mostly within Conservation Commission property. There's a small section at the southern end that goes into property that's not Conservation Commission, but is in the process of being purchased. And we hope that by the time the actual construction starts, that parcel will be Conservation Commission property. Next one, please.
This one?
Yep, thank you. So the overall elevation of the proposed route may not look that way, but it's surprisingly gentle. There aren't too many steep slopes. If you see at the bottom of the green and the yellow bars, the green indicates that the slope is gentle, the yellow is a little steeper. And if there's any red or black, which there aren't, those mean steep slopes. The trail is about 1.3 miles, or the proposed trail is about 1.3 miles. It's anticipated to be multi-use, just like the original connector. And it summits Discovery Hill, which we went walking, surveying there. Has some nice views that we anticipate that families using the trail will enjoy. Next one, please. Okay, so the second one, the one with the orange.
Went the wrong way. I'm so sorry. Here we go.
This is the map of any of the Cape Cod Pathways projects under any stage. Like most of them are conceptual, and they're not actively being worked on right now because of this project. But as you can see, the orange on this map is the proposed route. And these will most likely go by priority. So there will be one that will be worked on at a time. There will never be multiple. Some of them have no relevance to the Conservation Commission. But I just wanted to show you the active, or somewhat active projects at the time, whether they're on hold, which most of them are for the moment, or active, like this one. And then the last image. This is a map of all the projects on Cape Cod as a whole as it relates to the Cape Cod pathways. Some of them are not my projects. The one in Barnstable is being done, I believe, by the Barnstable Conservation Commission there. I have no involvement in that, but I wanted to put it out there so for future reference. And let's see if there's anything else. Oh, yes. If you have the proposal, I'm going to go down to opportunities. Is, I believe, further down. So our hope with this trail proposal is we hope it will increase enjoyment of the natural area, capitalize on scenic viewpoints. It will fill a gap in the Cape Cod pathways as I've shown, but it will mostly serve as a spur to Greenbrier, which I can explain down the road once we get to that proposal, which is not even a priority at this point. It discourages unauthorized trail building. We hope that legal usage will be happening on that trail, and we discourage any like dirt bike usage or stuff like that. It provides safer, easier access to the Discovery Hill Trail Network, just like the one before it. This one provides a little closer access and an alternative to trails that are not as scenic, like the cart path. And it promotes accessibility of legal user type while discouraging illegal access. Yep, I've gone into that. Let's see. So the scope of work, I'll need your name's Dave, right? Yeah. Dave's help with this because NEMPA the proposal states that NEMPA is responsible for the actual physical work. I'll just state that the anticipated scope of work is flagging, which we already have up. Well, it's pre-existing flagging. This was a project back in the early 2000s, I believe, that never got in front of the Conservation Commission, and we're just reviving that project and moving it forward. So the flagging is already up. We put in a couple of new flagging, but most of it's from that early 2000s. We expect that there to be pruning and brushing back of vegetation and benching, but not just like the connector before, there's not going to be any anticipated tree removal. All the mature trees and premature trees are likely going to stay in their spot. We'll just be working around the existing trees. The only funding that we anticipate is from volunteer labor and donations for signage, and that will be covered by NEMPA. That's pretty much it for the proposal. Let's see. Yep.
Thank you, John. We don't need public comment.
This isn't like a notice of intent or anything. It was more, we had been in communication, and then I know you had talked to Dave a little bit, and we just wanted to kind of group everyone in here because it's on conservation-owned property. Obviously, we can't grant permission on property we don't own yet, but just kind of loop you guys in and see if that is something you'd be willing to, we'd be willing to look at further or grant permission to. I know NEMPA has trails throughout, so I think the collaboration is great. But yeah, so.
I remember when I was on the Conservation Commission in Mashpee, NEMBA came in front of us and there was you guys were cutting a trail through what was near neighborhood. And I remember there's a lot of public, well, not a lot, but there were some folks who were not thrilled with the idea and wondered about.
We just did maintenance on it yesterday.
I was going to ask
It was
that.
just remote yesterday.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering, I know this is further from houses, so there probably won't be a lot of folks upset with it, but how wide is the trail going to be? And do you anticipate ATVs being able to access, or I know you said that would be discouraged, but just curious about your thoughts.
Normally, as bicyclists, we like what we call single track. This is not designed just for bicyclists. This is a multi-use trail. But we usually design our trails to be a minimum of 40 inches to accommodate adaptive riders, and adaptive riding is becoming quite popular on Cape Cod. So we try to get 40 inches so that their bikes and trikes can fit on the trail. When I worked with Dan Kent in Mashpee yesterday to get permission to do that maintenance, he said, please, let's keep the trails no wider than 4 feet unless it's a dirt road or something like that existing. So I guess the short answer is between 40 inches and 48 is what we usually design our trails to be. And regarding, there's always concerns, well, is this going to bring dirt bikers and ATVs in? I don't know if anyone is familiar with Discovery Hill. Discovery Hill, much of that conservation land is a mishmash, a zigzag of dirt bike trails that were created probably 30 years ago. And there is an awful lot of dirt bike activity over there. Our philosophy is that if we can build trails and we can get legal users onto those trails, that's pretty much the only proven way we found to deter the illegal users. I mean, dirt bikes have been on Cape Cod for 50, 60 years, and it's the bane of our existence as hikers and bikers, because at some point, they become only usable by the dirt bikes. You can't hike on them, you can't bike them. Mm-hmm. So enforcement has not worked. We published a white paper a couple of years ago that promotes deterrence. And part of our deterrent philosophy is signage. As soon as you put a sign up, someone thinks, well, somebody knows about this. This isn't my private oasis where I can go anywhere I want on my dirt bike. So between getting legal users out there, signage, whether it's a bench, kiosks, picnic tables, obviously we need to find the balance. Not everybody likes signage. You like a sylvan experience out in the woods, but I think one of the biggest problems we have with conservation land all over Cape Cod is the destruction by unauthorized, illegal motorized vehicle use.
Also, may I say something? I can say from my experience in my years living on Cape Cod, I've known about maple swamps since a few days after I moved to Sandwich. And I know from my time here and visiting Maple Swamp almost weekly that I've noticed the transformation that has occurred from what he says with the construction of new trails, new signage to deter dirt bikes. And I have noticed more recently that it actually does work. Before, in my first year here, we saw dirt bikes a couple of times, but now I don't see a single dirt bike at all from the last year. Even when I go in the evenings, now that doesn't mean that there aren't any dirt bikes, but that there's a reduction in the amount, and it's attributable to the signage and the trails.
If I may speak again, for those of you who are not familiar with the duo of John and I, more specifically, I'm representing NEMBA, but about 2 years ago, John proposed reviving a plan to continue the Cape Cod Pathways route through the Oak Ridge School, connecting to Discovery Hill, and we called it the Maple Swamp to Discovery Hill Connector. And it ended up being about 2 miles of trail that John designed, laid out, and then we implemented. And it's been a huge success. This is sort of a continuation of that effort. And one of the major, John did a great job in his presentation, but another selling point is, excuse me, Discovery Hill is the third highest peak, at least according to my research, third highest peak on Cape Cod. It's the second highest accessible peak on Cape Cod, and the first highest peak is within walking distance of that. Currently, there is no access to the summit of Discovery Hill. It would be a really great feature for the community to have access to the top of there and then be so close to the highest accessible point on Cape Cod.
I walked this. It's awesome. Like, I have this idea of the Cape Cod pathways. I lived at Camp Linden for 6 years. Like, we have an opportunity to create connectors which don't exist anywhere, and around here at least. And I think the trail is beautifully set. I think how it flows works well. There's a couple, like as a walker is not like maybe a turn I would take, but as a biker it probably seems a bit more fun. That hollow at the bottom I think is also a fun offshoot. I know the trail doesn't go down there, but it's an interesting area. Sadly, people in that cart path, looks like they've dumped trash. There's trash kind of right at the bottom, but it's grassy. It's an interesting spot. Might be worthy as an extension, just a little loop down there, or for walkers. So there aren't any significant trees. I think some areas the trail did look like it went very narrow through some trees. That if there's nothing significant out there, if you move in those really narrow spots where you weren't able to have that 45 inches, I think a little oak that big.
Did you follow the flagging? Because there is no trail currently out there. It's rough going.
He's a forger.
Yeah.
He will do it.
Don't worry. I love a good bushwhack, so I appreciate it. There were a couple, like, you kind of took these kind of big ears, and I think even just as a perimeter trail, like those aren't, you could make it a little more straight around because it opens it up really nicely. Yeah. So my one question, there's one area that's very steep, and I don't know what your work for the grade, and it was kind of along the side of a hillside.
So that was a traverse.
Exactly.
That would be a bench cut, and I think John mentioned some benching. Yeah. So we would bench cut. In our bench cuts, we still try to keep about a 10-degree angle because what we don't want a shelf that retains water. Yeah. We actually want something that you can walk on, but when the water is coming down that slope perpendicular, it flows over the trail. You'll notice that you had mentioned the trail does sort of some zigzag things. That's by design. If you look at that trail overlaid on a topographic map, you'll see that and this isn't topographic, it tries to stay parallel to the contours to prevent erosion. So this design is created to be sustainable.
Yeah. And I think that was my only erosion thought, was that where you're going to do the bench. Yeah. So
that was the toughest part of the design. Was, that steep slope. So there would be a bench cut, and I think it would probably be maybe 100 feet, 150 feet of bench cut, probably.
And that was my only thought, was every other part of the trail I walked, and I was like, where would I put this trail? And it was exactly where those flags were. Because sometimes I lose it, but I think it was really nicely put out. So thank you for bringing it. And I think the work you've done elsewhere has been awesome. So I really appreciate what you're doing to open up parcels of land, which I think the town needs to know about, because they should. It's beautiful.
Well, the wrong people are out there now. Yeah. If we don't get the right people, the wrong ones will find it.
There was interesting, like, it looked like maybe some giant cement chunks when you're accessing it. It's that top, like, northern section straight away of yellow there, right as before you get to that gravel pit. My guess is they dumped this industrial waste there, which saddened me.
So it's an existing road that connects up to the privately owned gravel pit there. So I don't know if the private landowners maybe thought that was on their land and put it there. But
and the other, right where the trail begins from there, so the northernmost red, there was a coyote skull, like right in the flagging, which was intriguing. And I did find evidence of maybe one den. So when you're going out there, there was a potential den, which seemed a little cobwebby to be maybe super fresh, but just something to be aware of.
You didn't grab the skull?
I have many pictures. It was cool. I've never found a coyote skull. I was psyched. Yeah.
We should hang out.
So, thank you. Is my final thought.
I have also another thing to say. So I actually today, earlier this afternoon, I was out in the Discovery Hill walking, and I did a little bit of bushwhacking. I didn't do the entire route, just to the top of Discovery Hill and back. And personally, I can say that it's not too steep. There are sections of it where it needs switchbacks, but only a short stretch to the summit. Just wanted to have you aware of the switchback.
Yeah, it's a fine summit, so everyone should totally do it.
And when Dave and I went scouting it, I'm not sure if I said this already, but we could see the ocean or the bay on the horizon. And we don't think that it will be visible in the summer because of foliage, but in the winter it would be a very valuable. So we are thinking of putting a bench at the summit.
Yeah, the trees seem to thin out a bit up there.
Yeah.
It would be a lovely place, even
it's a
if
great
you didn't
idea.
have the view,
That's
just to
nice,
have a
yeah.
bench at the summit.
Yeah, I think before this meeting, I was out in Chum Kroll, and what I appreciate about Chum Kroll is they have benches at intersections. And personally, I think more signage the better, because we want people to feel comfortable as they're out there. I think the scariest thing is feeling lost. My one addition would maybe be maps. I think that's one thing as someone, when there's an intersection, having a map that shows you where you are, not just a name or an arrow, having a map at kind of major intersections for a walker are really helpful features. My other thought, which I'll leave it with, is the horses. We know there's horses out there. That kind of section, there's horses that are.
Yep, the horse farm is up by the service road.
Yeah.
And they commonly go on the we call it the horse road all the way down to Kaya's.
Yeah.
And frankly, another reason for this trail is bikers are pretty good being conscientious about horses, but there's dual traffic there.
Yeah.
And occasionally horses get spooked, so it's another reason to separate those two user groups.
Yeah, and I think that was my thought initially too, was when you're thinking about entrancing though, what would you believe most on bikes? Because I parked kind of on a road off the service road, which wasn't ideal. Parking wise, where would you imagine people would be coming from?
So the nice thing about bikes is we can go a lot farther, easier than hiking. One current parking area is the entrance to Oak Ridge School. The new playground is technically off the school campus. It's a dirt parking lot with about 20 spots. That's excuse me, that's a great spot to park. There really isn't much access from the service road west of Quaker Meeting House, but there is I believe there's the new parking lot, 40 cars on Round Hill Road at the golf course, which is also probably within a mile to 2 miles of the trail entrance where the horse farm is off the service road. So there's a lot of parking within 2 miles.
So I guess then the follow-up is to advertise this and saying, hey, we have this new trail that's come out. How do you get out that knowledge of like, you could park in this spot, here's the trail you would get to this new area? Like, is that something that's part of your outreach?
Right, you're going to give me another chance to pat our organization on the back. I don't know if you've noticed yet that on Round Hill Road, the aforementioned 40-car parking lot, our organization just installed a kiosk. So essentially a 4-foot wide, maybe 8-foot tall with a very small roof and an information board. So we haven't populated the information board, but we do plan on putting a map there. Our organization maintains maps of essentially all the trails on Cape Cod. We feel pretty confident that we have pretty much everything from deer tracks to dirt roads on this map. These maps are live, so what we're thinking is we'll probably have some QR codes on each kiosk. It would bring you to our mapping. A little blue dot would show you your current location. You can zoom in, zoom out, figure out where you're going, and all the trails will be on there.
So final question, and you don't need to have an answer now. With the rail trail that's getting built, my guess is there's going to be a lot of e-bikes. I was just in Acadia e-biking around to the carriage roads.
Yep.
That is a very different beast to mountain bikes and horses and hikers. And I think when it comes to some of these carriage roads, and I mean, it's perfect for that kind of thing. And there doesn't need to be an answer now, but is that something your organization is thinking about? Because of sharing with powered
we've
bikes.
had a lot of discussions about, as a mountain biking organization, do we adopt e-bikes into our fold? Yeah. And so, as you may or may not know, there are 3 classes of e-bikes. I believe it's class 1 and class 2 don't go any faster than 20 miles an hour, and they're pedal assist, which means if you're not pedaling, you're not going anywhere. The other class, which I believe is the class 3, you'll see them occasionally. They can be throttle activated. They have enough power where they can maybe spin their tires and cause damage to the trails. Usually their speed limit is 28 miles an hour. Now we're getting to the point where it's getting dangerous, whether they're on bike paths, multi-use trails, in the woods. So our organization, we've adopted into our fold class 1 and class 2. The trails are designed such that on a pedal bike, I can pedal as fast as the guy on his e-bike. He might do a little better going uphill, but the trails are twisty and they're limited by the twists in the trails, so they can't go that fast physically, even if they're that strong. Yeah. So I'm not concerned about class 1 and class 2 e-bikes being in the woods because they can't do any more damage than a mountain bike. And our studies say that mountain biking and hiking do about the same amount of impact on our trail system. So we're not too worried about those 2 classes.
Great, thank you. I don't have anything else. I mean, I could go for hours. Like we should chat afterwards.
Anyone else?
No, I think it's great.
Yeah.
Everyone seems to think it's a good idea, as we're hearing
Thank you.
right now.
So what's the process? Do they work with you to figure how
so
to
we
do
kind
this?
of communicate that with each other, and then I don't know as far as I'll have to talk with Dave a little bit more about filing requests, if that's going to require an administrative review where you're not doing earthwork and you're just doing vegetation work, or when we get to that point, and then just kind of reiterating we can only obviously grant permission on the conservation owned property. So whatever pieces that we don't own, whether it's private landowners or even if it's another town entity, you're gonna have to talk to those owners for those portions. But
if you look at the map here, so you'll see on the southwest, that little extension of trail there.
Yeah.
I think that goes into the parcel that's for sale.
okay,
If things got stalled, we could always make it meet up with the existing trail on the existing conservation piece. It's just a very small adjustment. This is probably preferable, but we can make adjustments.
and in the past when you've created trails in town, what kind of was it just communication with Dave and my predecessor?
When we created the 2 miles from Maple Swamp to, you can actually see a little kettle hole trail.
Yep.
We created that. I don't think we needed any special permission.
Okay.
That other project was a little more complex because the lands were managed by Concom. Some land was managed by school committee.
Gotcha.
Some was managed by select board. So John and I made a lot more
A lot of conversations.
appointments, official meetings.
Yep.
So this should be simpler.
Okay.
And I think Dave just said, yep. Well, it was back when we had Josh. Josh walked with John and I.
Okay.
Just to make sure and see if there were any areas like Jeremy pointed out. There's a point where we would need to do a bench cut. I have not checked to see if this is a national heritage.
Yeah, I'll have to look at. I can check that
Because with our other project, we had to deal with the turtles.
Yep.
So we're on hold till fall, till
Okay.
completion of that project.
Yeah, I have just looked at that today, actually. Okay, yeah, so, I mean,
Thank you for coming.
if you need NHESP permission, but as long as everyone on the commission is okay with it, then they can, investigate it further and.
So
go forward with the
John and
next
I will
steps.
reach out to you and Dave. And we'll...
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank
you so
you.
much.
Thank you, gentlemen.
And I want to apologize to John. I didn't know he was here with his new haircut.
All right, so next item of business, wetland violation review for 11 Canary Street, Sandwich, Mass.
So that one is in regard to some vegetation that was removed along the homeowners of 11 Canary, which runs, there's Canary Street and then there's vegetation in their property runs along it, and some vegetation had been cut, and I could not find any permission for that work. So there were some neighbors, going back and forth and whatnot, but at the end of the day, it falls on the property owner, which after I looked at our GIS was at 11 Canary. And I don't know, is anyone here for that? Are you all here? Oh, wow. Okay, hello. Welcome. Thanks for waiting. So, I mean, as violations go, it always goes to the landowner regardless of who is responsible. It falls on the responsibility of, fixing the violation falls on that landowner. So I guess this is kind of just to go over that conversation and then what we want to do to fix it and how we want to, go about this. Right now, it's just a violation. There's no formal enforcement order or anything. I'm hoping we can just have a discussion and, put back what was cut out. So if you want to talk about that. If you want, these are the representatives from there, so there's a lot of you.
We obviously gave no permission to this. This is family property that's been in the family for many, many years, and when our mother passed away and their father deeded over to us, still in the trust for them and under my mother's name, and I'm the executor of her estate. So we had no idea this had happened, and
I actually was on the property probably the end of last summer, and everything looked pretty good to me. I didn't see any activity until my sister and I went down there after we got the notification. It was quite outstanding, and we weren't too thrilled about it, put it that way. There's a little river that goes through it, and it's all been cleared, like someone's trying to get over to Boardwalk Road.
Some of and I can speak on some of the river clearing. Mosquito control had done some work, and that's through the county.
Okay.
So some of they're exempt from a lot of things and doing vegetation removal to make sure you don't have a bunch of mosquitoes breeding in the in our water. Some of that, my concern was more of like what was, to me, it looked like more was cut than what would be reasonable for road access.
You can see where
there's
the
like a
dead
big
trees
swath.
are. Yeah, it's on the right, correct?
Yeah.
On the right-hand side.
Yeah, so if you're looking at the river, it's on the right-hand side, and there's like this huge swath that's just been cut out, and then
it goes kind of.
Some of the trees look like they've been, like maybe for a view or something. So.
Well, who cut it down?
I don't know.
No one knows.
No, we're not. There's been some neighbor conversations.
Yeah, but we have a good idea.
Where there wasn't, I didn't physically see somebody doing it and go, hey, what's happening? This was, a neighbor reported it and said, hey, this is happening over here.
Which was nice because it could have got worse if it's actually someone hacking around in there.
Yeah.
Now, the mosquito people, do we know they recently came?
I think so, because when I went out there and talked to anybody that was in their yard to try to figure out what was going on. They're like, oh, mosquito control came, a couple weeks ago to do, and this is really the time of year that they do a lot of their maintenance work.
Well, because we kind of said, like, if anyone from conservation was going to go out there, they'd probably let us know.
Yeah, so I didn't go onto your property. I just went onto Canary and then, talked to, I think it's the folks on the right side and then, or the left side rather, and then the folks down the end. So that's kind of my track. But I try not to walk on property that I don't have permission to walk on unless violations allow me to, but still. With ring cameras and everything, I don't want people concerned about, who's that lady walking across my yard.
We had Bracken Engineering actually go and survey the property at one point.
Yeah.
And then I had to take a man out for, settling the estate kind of thing.
Okay.
And people notice.
Yeah. Yep.
that you're out there.
Yeah. So I mean, I had stayed right on the road there, but yeah, we have some pictures of what was cut, and I think we had the one.
It looks like some of the reeds, I don't know what the actual technical
Probably the
name,
Phragmites.
started to grow back up.
That stuff grows everywhere, so that's good.
Yeah.
Who knows if it's gonna come back down, that's the problem.
And my concern more was not so much the frag, because that will always come back, but just the amount of like understory, and then some of the tree limbs that were cut just randomly. So, I mean,
The mosquito people would let you know.
and the mosquito people wouldn't
Mosquito
do that
people
level
would
of
not
work.
do that.
No,
Somebody's
people would just
cutting
cut
for
parts
a
on the
view.
edge of the river.
Someone's cutting
Like
for
they would
a
just
view.
pick all the
Exactly.
stuff
Someone's
out of the
cutting for
river.
a view.
That's
Yeah.
my thought.
This isn't their handiwork.
Yeah. So I guess the question is, what do we do?
Yeah, what do we do?
Right,
So,
what can we do?
yeah, like, what was cut down?
Yeah. Do we know the kind of tree?
It was a lot of invasives, to my understanding. I didn't see any like huge, oaks or maples. I think it was a lot of like sumac, lots of briars and things
Sumac's
like that.
great. Sumac will grow back real fast, so.
But I'm not, a botanist, so my plant ID, I could just tell that the vegetation was not naturally cut. It was like a storm blew through it or something. There's a lot of understory and lower shrubs, but it is a marsh, so I would assume it's salt-loving plants.
Yeah. So what would do well?
I mean, my recommendation is obviously they're here and they're in good faith, so
Yeah.
an issuing of an enforcement order, I don't think is necessary.
Right.
I agree.
Do
I
we
think-
post something perhaps? I mean,
Sure, in other towns, often a split rail fence, I don't, is conditioned so that people don't do it. I would leave that up to you folks. It's a simple deterrent, so then no mowing or anything happens. But looks like there was one tree in here. I think if you worked with staff, there's tons of native plant lists, so you can come up with a quantity of some plants, and I would say at least one tree to go in its place. Just a minor restoration in there.
That's
Nothing,
what I was leaning towards,
nothing
some sort of
significant. You'll need
restoration.
surveys and plans. You may, if you have a relationship with someone at Bracken, they may be able to give you something. Just in terms of a plant list or things that you might just want to revegetate that area.
Yeah.
The reality of the situation is it probably will grow back with a lot of invasives.
That's right.
But typically under violations, there has to be an attempt so that you don't, so it's not malicious in the future.
And preventing it from happening again. I mean, if there's,
Now, when you say the split rail fence, are you talking the whole?
you could do it a whole
Because
length
there's
of your
property
property.
on the left and the right.
Okay.
Going down this driveway.
Road or street.
Bracken thinks there's a buildable spot on the front and over on the, but it is split by the driveway.
Okay.
So, I mean, I don't think the neighbors are gonna be, if we just show up and say, hey, we're gonna do a split rail rent all the way down.
Yeah.
I don't know how they'd feel about it, but.
Is it your property all the way down?
Yes.
It goes all the way
So in theory, you could.
So our grandmother actually gave them the right of way to get to the house on the
Gotcha.
The old family was the Kiley family way back when, so now I'm not sure who it is out there, is it? It's Carpenter.
Mr. Carpenter.
Carpenter. At the very end, there's two houses up the dirt road.
And then there's actually a pathway that goes right down to the water.
Yeah,
So I don't know how they feel, I mean,
Right.
putting split rail.
Even if we didn't do a fence, you could do markers, just like posts, and then put your, put your no trespassing signs right on the posts too.
And that's the other thing, those people have been living there forever, and it's like, you just hate to litter it with no trespassing, but if that's what we
Right,
have to
but
say.
if, you've got people coming onto your property without information causing all this, you wanna, get ahead of that too.
You can't approach violations while in regeneration. You can't.
Suddenly, somebody
There
moved
has
in
to
last
be
year.
a precedent.
And
now
there's
Right across the street is where the cutting is.
Precedent in the future.
Yeah.
We could
And they ran in
sorry,
the house when it showed up.
But then if somebody doesn't get caught, there should be a restoration that
Now-
in minor in scope, I think is appropriate because there isn't a lot of, but some implementation. And again, a simple plant list to submit to Jenna. She'll just approve if there's things on there that aren't native. She'll say, hey, just replace it. So it would have to be native to the East Coast. And then I think just one tree. I would also say a fall planting. So don't plant anything now. It's a little too hot because irrigation is probably going to be difficult to get out there. But you could just keep an eye on it. I don't know how long you folks are around for, but some hand watering a little bit just during establishment.
Are you talking where the area that's cleared, you want us to put like similar
essentially restore the area to, you know, its original condition to the best of your ability. Obviously, you can't plant huge full-grown trees, but, you know, putting other native vegetation in there that's going to grow back, and then whether you post no trespassing signs or, you know, however you want to do that aesthetically, just to prevent it from continuing. Because if you're not all living there and, you know, monitoring that area regularly, I would hate for, you know, whoever did this, if you can't find who's responsible, to, you know, follow up with them civilly.
So it's kind of, we can actually make it a police matter as well.
No,
we can't.
So if it's this obviously this restoration is going to, you know, cost something, and if you know, as the landowners are responsible to implement it, but if you didn't give permission, you didn't do the violation. If you are able to investigate, you know, via the police, via however, find out who's responsible for it, you could pursue them civilly to offset those costs, or, you know, make them do it however that works. But,
and we give you the list.
Yes, please. That would be great. And then, you know, give me the list, you know, when you plant them in the fall, let me know. I can come out and inspect, you know, approve them. And then as long as they're successful and whoever doesn't go through and cut everything down again, we won't have this issue again.
Do you have like a quantity, like you do, give us something we should be looking at, so we can, if we have to calculate costs and all that stuff?
Yeah, so I mean, that's
right on Google, you can use a plant spacing calculator. So if you guys go out and do just like a measurement, something like this, even a 5 to 6 feet on center would probably give you an adequate amount. Typically restorations are a little bit, but again, I don't think it's necessary. So I would say something like 5 feet on center, and then I would just say one small tree like a red maple, just because it looks like there was one. So if we get a 1-to-1, I think that would be appropriate.
Yeah.
And the smaller, the better, because it's actually a little bit easier to establish, and it's not quite as expensive, so a little bit easier to plant.
Do you see approximately where the tree was taken?
So there's one photo.
So we know
Yes.
that's where you'd want us to put the tree.
Well,
not really, because you're going to have roots there, so you're probably going to want to put it somewhere else, maybe in front of the window of the person that.
Yeah, so these are our suggestions. You can
put a stockade fence right there. Just that little spot.
It's not higher than 6 feet, right?
Oh yeah, a tree house.
Okay. So
basically we get back with you then.
Yeah, so as long as
In the fall?
this meeting was to kind of, you know, have that conversation with you guys here, see what the commission wants to do. And obviously you want to be in compliance, and the violation won't go any further enforcement wise. So as long as we, you know, have that conversation and, you know, work towards compliance, that satisfies anything.
Signs would
In the
probably
meantime,
be
we should put up signs.
I think so.
Yeah, that's your job.
Do you want everyone to be helpful?
Yeah, I'm gonna pass this around. If you could put your name and your address, just so I can have it for the minutes.
Do we need it for the for this microphone as well?
No, because I'll have it written down. Yeah.
And then any other contact information, email, phone number, that way you
Yes,
don't have to just send letters.
Yeah, the letter came to me and I was away.
Oh, I'm sorry. There might be a second one in the works somewhere because I don't get a response. Okay. All right.
But I knew that would be
Don't panic. That's just my hey, excuse me, please reply. Okay. So as long as that's all good with you guys, we can.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
I'm
you.
sorry it happened, but thank you for coming.
Yeah, someone told.
Yeah, great.
Actually, if we didn't get the letter from you, we probably wouldn't know.
Yeah.
I haven't walked on that way in 2 years.
Oh, wow.
It's a beautiful piece of property. So.
Do you want to buy it?
How do you feel about pink flamingos and that kind of thing?
I think they're great. I've got a couple in my yard.
Large no.
Job lot, $5.
And rusty, how about rusty tires?
Thank you very much, folks.
Thank you.
What to get done
Appreciate
tonight. And we'll move on to 16 Teaberry Lane, Sandwich, Mass.
That one will be short and sweet. I talked to the homeowner. They were going to come to a meeting, but she asked, "Can I just take it out? Can I just remove the dock?" And I went, "Yep." That would be fantastic. So I talked to her. She lives off site, but I talked to whoever is responsible for the yard maintenance and whatnot over there, they called me to make sure it was okay that they could remove it. They were concerned they're in a resource area, and I was like, yeah, the concern is a little too late. We shouldn't have built it, but that was a while ago. So they're just going to pull it out and make sure that there's nothing remaining, no styrofoam or anything. It's just a wooden dock. So they're going to pull it all out and submit pictures, and then they'll be back in compliance. If she ever wants a dock in the future, she'll apply appropriately. But
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nothing for the restoration order reviews, correct?
No, we talked about that, so nothing new there.
Move to the approval of the minutes. Everyone have a chance to
I
glance
have
at
one.
them?
You go.
I was gonna say, did you see the other file? We just had someone who was interested in being a Concon member. Kasha, she works for Cape and Island Engineering.
What a cool resume.
Yeah, so I told her there's one alternate right now. All of you guys are getting reappointed. So if one full-time opens up, she said she would totally be down to do that. So if you're interested in having her come in informally,
Yeah.
I can have her come in for July.
That'd be awesome.
Sure.
Okay, great. Yep, perfect. That's all I had.
For the meeting notes,
Yep.
somewhere in there, it says that on one project that the homeowners contacted me, it wasn't that one I was referring to, it was Captain Hooks, that we had they had just asked for a continuance, and I mentioned that they had contacted me for a landscape architect, which they might have needed to, I really needed to actually take them on to help them, but I didn't.
Okay, so I'm gonna take
So
that.
it wasn't Freeman Street, Freeman, I think you have that in Freeman.
What was it?
It was Captain Hook.
It was Captain Hunt.
Yeah, I don't see it in Freeman.
Oh.
Is it, it was,
Oh,
Town Map.
Freeman is right after 12 Captain Hook Road, isn't it?
Was
D.
it from the week prior?
2D.
I think it was the 6-4.
Oh,
Yeah,
no,
so that needs to go
Bernice
there.
is correct. Yeah.
Oh.
All right, I will change that, and then if you could just vote to approve them with the minor change. So.
Great.
I'll make a motion to approve the May 21, 2025 meeting minutes of the Sandwich Conservation Commission with changes as discussed.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Excellent. So, if nothing else, I will make a motion to adjourn the June 4th, 2025 meeting of the Sandwich Conservation Commission at 7:40 p.m.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
2 seconds.